Hello, everybody. Welcome back to We're Talking Movies. As always, I'm Andrew, joined by Cade. And welcome back to the Halloween Spooktacular we're doing for 2025. And we're here with another edition in a series that we've done several entries in at this point, the Scooby-Doo animated movies from the late 90s, early 2000s. And today we have Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase from 2001. Now, Cade, this movie is almost 25 years old now. So what was your relationship with this movie when you were younger?
Well, when it comes to the Cyber Chase, this was definitely one of the movies that I rewatched the most with the Scooby-Doo films. I mean, it was always a fun Scooby-Doo movie in my opinion. I did consider it one of my favorites when I was younger. I've always been a gamer, so I did enjoy the whole storyline of the Mystery Inc. gang getting beamed into a video game and being forced to play through all the levels. And just like with Scooby-Doo meets the Boo Brothers, this is also another Scooby-Doo movie that I have not seen in a really long time, and it was fun to rewatch it for this review. But what about you?
For me, I remember watching this as a kid, but compared to Witch's Ghost and Zombie Island, this one really didn't leave as much of an impact to me. I did like it better than Boo Brothers because I thought the plot in this one wasn't nearly as convoluted. But overall, I remember it, but it didn't leave as big of an impact as other entries in this very long-running franchise.
Well, with that in mind, let's get into our pros. So to start off our pros, kind of like I mentioned, the one thing I want to highlight about this movie is the plot. I really like the idea of the gang being trapped inside a video game that's inspired by their adventures together. I like how the levels incorporate a lot of classic Scooby-Doo elements that we all know and love. And apart from some of the puzzle-solving aspects, I also like the fact that they have to beat each level by collecting boxes of Scooby snacks. I think it's really cool how the game features several classic Scooby-Doo villains like the Creeper, who was always one of my favorites, or the Tar Monster, Old Iron Face, Gator Ghoul, Jaguaro. It's a great way to include so many Scooby-Doo elements that we love.
Yeah, I especially love the detail of they gotta grab the box of Scooby snacks to exit the level because that can't really put it into words, but it feels very video gamey. It feels very correct. Like it feels like, oh, Sonic grabbing the rings or Mario grabbing a mushroom or, Pac-Man grabbing one of the pellets. I don't know. I loved that detail. Like it does feel like an actual game they're in, not just a video game themed episode of a movie. And I also like the fact that it's different puzzles each time. Like it goes, one was obviously just finding the box on the moon. One was fighting the zombie or skeleton Roman soldiers. One was surviving a erupting volcano to rescue a baby pterodactyl who just happened to be sitting on the box of Scooby snacks. There's a lot of imagination in this plot.
Yeah, and I definitely love the variety when it comes to the levels. Like you were mentioning, the ancient Rome level or even the space level. There's even a couple that we see in Japan and Egypt or in the Arctic. Yeah, I definitely love the creativity. And actually, one other small thing I want to highlight is the final level or the city level, if you want to call it that. I like how the climax is set in an amusement park. I can't really explain why, but it's just a fun location for a big showdown with the Phantom Virus and the other villains. I guess maybe because it also kind of brought back memories of that one episode from the Scooby-Doo Where Are You show, Foul Play in Funland.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good throwback to me. This reminded me more of the climax of Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed, where all the monsters are attacking Coolsville at once. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. But another big aspect of the story that I love is the gang working with the cyber gang. This has always been one of my favorite aspects because it creates a really fun dynamic for both gangs to work together, and you get some really good and funny scenes out of it. Like you have the scene where both the Freds go, "I'll drive," or when the Velmas both say Jinkies together, or when we see the Shaggies and the Scoobies just chowing down on food together. It also ties into what we were saying earlier about incorporating classic Scooby-Doo elements because the Cyber Gang, at least most of them, have their classic Scooby-Doo styles that they did from the 60s.
Yeah, they do. I especially like how both Scoobies end up working together, kind of misdirect the Phantom Virus and allow them to grab the last box of Scooby snacks and escape the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And adding on to that, another pro that I have with this movie is going to be the Phantom Virus as a villain. And I do have some issues with this character, but we'll get into that later. I really do enjoy how the virus isn't just another guy in a mask, how he's a computer generated monster. I also like how powerful a villain he is. I also really like the performance by Anthony Sturgis. I love how menacing he makes the virus sound, but I also like the energy that he brings to his vocal performance. It kind of goes back to what I said about Tim Curry in The Witch's Ghost when he was playing Ben Ravencroft. I think that you can tell with this movie, it sounded like he was having such a blast playing the Phantom Virus, which I appreciated.
Yeah, I like aspects of the Phantom Virus, and I don't like aspects of the Phantom Virus. In fact, we kind of have the same opinions. It's a great design. It's a very menacing vocal performance, the way he kind of cackles.
And he also has that kind of raspy tone, which is really cool.
Raspy tone always is very chilling, especially for a kid's movie like this. I think the design is great, how he looks like a bolt of electricity or a living, mass of computer data. And again, something I actually really like in all of these late 90s, early 2000s animated Scooby-Doos. I love the fact that the villain is a real monster. The witch's ghost was real, the zombies were real, and now the phantom virus is real. And when we get to alien invaders at some point down the road, the aliens were real. I love the dedication to using real monsters.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's an element that I always enjoy about Scooby-Doo stories, especially in the movies. But despite that, we do have our cons with this movie. I think starting that off, one con that I have with this movie, I think that it has a little bit of missed opportunity when it comes to the levels. I know that we had some good things to say about the plot and the levels, but with that being said, the reason I'm also listing this as a con is because when it comes to having missed opportunity, I think it goes back to saying how, there were some levels that were set in Japan or some in Egypt, which we got little glimpses of, but they never really served as main levels in the story. Part of me kind of wishes that we could have spent a little bit more time in those levels, or I honestly think it would have been cool if we could have gotten a level that was inspired by one of the episodes from the original Scooby-Doo show from the 60s, the one with the Black Knight or maybe the Green Ghost. So not exactly a huge con, but it's something that I feel could have had, I think it had more potential, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like you could have done a castle level with the Black Knight. You could have done like an ocean level with, say, Captain Cutler's ghost, or you could have done like an abandoned factory or something with the 10,000-volt ghost. So for me, I agree it's a missed opportunity. For me, it's not a con because we're not the ones who made this, but I agree it's definitely a missed opportunity. I think they maybe could have done even more with the, frankly, very rich and very long-lasting Scooby-Doo lore.
Absolutely. Adding on to that, another con that I have with this movie, although it was a pro, but it's also a con, that's going to be the Phantom virus. So as we see him battling the gang in each level, sometimes we see him using his power. Specifically, we see him firing his lightning bolts, which is pretty cool, but other times throughout the story, we see him just using regular weapons. Like we see him using a spear in one level, we see him with a shield and sword, or we see him with another spear, and then we see him riding a horse with another sword. And I don't know, my whole issue with this is I don't really see why he needs weapons. I mean, when he's riding the T-Rex, he throws a spear at them when he can't get to them, and instead of using his lightning bolts, he just doesn't really do anything. Same thing happens in the Arctic level when he's just riding the polar bear, he has another spear, and he still doesn't use his lightning bolts. Or in the ancient Rome level, he just uses a sword and a shield. Use your lightning bolts, you dumbass. You have powers. Why do you need weapons?
I agree. That is a little bit ridiculous. For me, my biggest issue is that he's a very ineffective villain. Like, he has so many chances to kill Mystery Incorporated. He attacks them so many times and he fails every single time. And as a result, in my opinion, his ineffectiveness kind of knocks him down in terms of great Scooby-Doo villains. Also, I just think the fact that they gave him just sort of generic henchmen for every level except the city level, that kind of builds on what you were saying a couple minutes ago about missed opportunities. How about have his minions be old Scooby-Doo villains?
Yeah, and something else that I think is a con is definitely the reveal when we find out that Bill is the villain who orchestrated everything. And now I don't dislike the idea that he's the one who created the Phantom virus. My whole issue is just how obvious it is that he's the one behind it all based on the amount of clues that he incorporates in the game. And this can be seen when the Phantom virus shouts out, "Let's play ball," or "You're down to your final out," or in the Coliseum when they find the chalk diamond on the ground. I think all these clues make the story a little too obvious that Bill is the culprit behind everything, but also by showing everyone that he's a huge baseball fan and including all these details in the game just makes it seem pretty reckless.
Yeah, it is one of those almost painfully obvious who the bad guy is, especially because they didn't give Bill too much of a personality outside of, oh, he likes baseball. So the fact that there's all these baseball references in the game related to the Phantom virus makes it just, okay, you want to bash this over the head a little more with who the villain is before you reveal him?
Yeah, I get what you mean. But with all that, why don't we move on to our score for this movie? Andrew, what is going to be your score for Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase?
Well, for me, out of the big four of the animated Scooby-Doo movies from this time period, Zombie Island, Witch's Ghost, Alien Invaders, and Cyber Chase, this is my third favorite of the four. So going by that logic, I have to give it something lower than Zombie Island and Witch's Ghost. So for this, I think a 7 is a good score for this.
And you know what? I think I'm actually going to give it a same score. I'm probably going to give it a 7 out of 10. It's a Scooby-Doo movie I've always enjoyed, and it's just like with some of the others. I really see some of the things that I was ignoring before. So yeah, I think I'll give it a 7. Again, good Scooby-Doo movie. Not one of the best, but still a good one.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the We're Talking Movies show and the latest edition of our Halloween Spooktacular. As always, I've been Andrew. That's been Cade. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you all again very soon.